Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me this evening to get started with something I can't believe has come around already, but it is time to send my Ford GT to the USA. The American road trip is beginning. So we're going to be loading up the car from here at Topaz, where it's been in for a clean-up and preparation before departure. We're going to be taking it with Turbo Transport over to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam Schiphol, where that car is going to be loaded onto a pallet that goes inside a cargo 747 to fly to New York JFK. Then I fly a few days later. By then it will have cleared customs and I'm going to jump into the car and drive it into Manhattan. That doesn't quite feel real at the moment, but let me tell you what's been going on. Then I need to take it out for a drive because there is something that I've not prepared yet in advance, but this is going to be an exciting couple of days. My first time sending a car, especially this car, my pride and joy, to another continent. This is actually happening. The Ford GT is going to New York. What's going to be happening now then is I'll run you through what's been going on with the GT here at Topaz. Then I'm going to take it out for a drive, which will be my last drive on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, I know that sounds totally silly, but the next time I drive it is going to be in North America. Of course, in a couple of months' time, the car will be coming back, but in the meantime, it's going to be exploring all around the USA. And there is actually one other reason that I do need to take the car out for as well. Then tomorrow morning, I'm going to be meeting up with Turbo Transport to load the car into the trailer to take it to the Netherlands. Now that's a process that takes a day and a half. Then I'm going to meet with the car and with Turbo, of course, at Amsterdam Schiphol, the airport, where we're going to be dropping off the car at customs to clear through, to be loaded onto a pallet, to be flown to New York. Now I don't know how much of that process I'm going to be able to see, but I will give you updates of what it's like, what you have to do in advance, the things that I've been learning. Of course, the first time for me ever doing this, and I'm sure there are going to be some surprises as well. So we'll get onto all of that and getting this car over to the other side of the world. But in the meantime, let me tell you what we've been doing with it. So the car has basically come in because a car never looks as clean and tidy as it does on the day that it leaves Topaz. I wanted to have it completely cleaned over, completely gone through, and they've done that miraculously as always. One other thing though, you might remember from the Nordschleife earlier this year, it kind of picked up a bit of a trophy in the sense of the PPF here between the exhaust tailpipes. Now on a car like this, where it gets extremely hot, the power coming through a small engine with twin turbos means that back here is baking hot, and unfortunately in some cases it can mean that you burn PPF. Now PPF can cleverly be placed on many cars, so for example on my Senna, where you have the louvres on the rear deck, you don't do those because they get too hot. But with this, because it's such a bespoke car and there are only a handful or two of them here in the UK and not many that have been PPF'd, it's all a bit of a learning experience, and as a result of that, we tried out. We intentionally didn't do the insides here because we knew that would be a problem, but we didn't expect that it was going to burn outside there. So what they've done is created a new template that sticks around further out to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So it's all been tidied up and prepared on that front. Now the other thing, as I mentioned, the reason I need to take it out for a drive, and inside here also very much clean and tidy and ready with all of its updates, with a seat cover as well, obviously ready to go through transport, although it won't be driven by anybody other than me. I'll be taking it onto the pallet and I'll be taking it off the pallet at the other end, so it's all in pretty safe hands, I think, and not going to be risking any damage or anything like that. But inside here, if we just come through, as I showed you in the garage update video, turn it on quickly, it's got a little bit too much fuel. About a third of a tank, which at the moment, even though, there we go, fuel level low, 37 miles to empty, but I need to get that fuel bar in the top left to down under a quarter. It can't travel with over a quarter of a tank of fuel, and it says 37 miles, by the way, because the last few miles, of course, have been driving very slowly, just moving around here in the car park and inside at Topaz. Realistically, you'd get a little bit more than that, but I do need to run it down. I do need to go and drive it about 20-30 miles or so outside of London, hopefully, to pull down some of the fuel so that it can actually be loaded into the plane. That's a safety thing. You always have to do it to send cars by air cargo. So that is the plan for now. I'm going to jump on board, take the car out for a little drive, and tell you more about the plans ahead. Now, just quickly before we do get in, about the PPF, by the way, when I say that it burns, it kind of wrinkles and shrivels up. Of course, as you can see, it doesn't damage the paintwork in any form. The paintwork is all absolutely fine, which with a car like this, we need to be very careful with. But I am going to take a step inside now. Let me do this again carefully. It's actually quite difficult to get into the car. Left-hand drive, of course. I will turn it back on, bring the car into life for a moment. Ready to rock and roll. Of course it's all cold and the like. I think I might actually end up going back inside just to have a little chit chat before we do go out for this little drive, but I haven't really spent very much time, if at all, driving the car since it had the new steering wheel, since it had these gold paddles from ADP. Of course, we did a few outings with the seats that were done at Sparco with all the stitching and the embroideries and having the harnesses installed, but more or less the car is set to go. And this is the thing that my head still can't quite get around, that I've been thinking about doing this trip for a long time. You might have seen my video where I announced lots of the details, and I'll tell you more about those coming up in a moment. But the idea of taking a car to America to go for a road trip, but now being in the incredibly lucky position to take the American supercar, the Ford GT, to the USA to do this there is just, it's an absolute dream, and I can't wait for these adventures that are coming, for the things, the videos that I've got planned, the things that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. This is going to be truly epic. For now though, let me pop back in, say my goodbyes, and then head on out to go for a few miles driving in the car to just enjoy it a little bit, the last drive here before it's on the way. A few distractions, and about 45 minutes or so later, it is time to go out. I've been inside chatting to the guys, but the sun is starting to set. Now, the slightly ironic thing is that I am just driving the car to take some fuel out of it. Fuel that I put into the car when it was in Monaco during top marks. But let's pop it into drive. We will go out just, well, a gentle cruise, although if I did hold it in first gear, this would be done a little bit quicker. But any opportunity to drive the car is, of course, an enjoyable one. So I'm not going to have a bad time, that's for sure. Anywho, like I said, last time driving some miles in this car here in Europe. The lift system just in the center, that is definitely something I'm expecting to have to use a lot when I get to New York. So the first stop on this trip is New York City. I'm then going to be heading down the East Coast. I've got stops in Philadelphia, then I'm going to fly to a few places. The car is going to head down to Atlanta, and then we're going to go down to Miami and a few things around Florida. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will be disappointed that for some legs, of course, it's going to go by truck. The reason for that is that driving through the US, you can get to situations where your next turn is in like 500 miles. It's not thrilling driving. I can't really put that kind of mileage on the car. I don't want to wear it out. I want to savor the enjoyment of it, and I want it to still look immaculate and be clean and not take any risks, especially after what's recently happened to the Senna, and that was just cruising on a motorway here in the UK. So I'm going to be careful with it. I'm going to save myself some time, and of course that also means that when I get to some of the destinations, if I'm not driving for 12 hours that day, thank you very much, it means I can film other videos rather than just be sitting on motorways. So that's a pretty important one for me as well. That little noise you heard, that was the wing coming back down. And we can pop the lift system back down as well. So the car is going to be trucked around. Of course, from Miami, it's then going to go all the way to California for Monterey Car Week. To LA first, to Car Week, then to San Francisco, then back down to LA, and then from there on, I'm going to head back across again, but it's not yet planned. That's all going to come together as we get a little bit closer to the time. So we'll go to a lot of places, but the long journeys, I think Miami to LA is almost 3,000 miles or so, so I don't really fancy driving that. It would probably take me about 3 days. Just to get across the country, and I'd rather fly, send the car, I'm going to fly off, do a couple of other things, so that will be happening basically in the background while I'm off doing other stuff. So the car is going to go to, you know, it will be in Times Square, New York, it will be in South Beach, Miami, it will be on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, it will cross the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. It's not like this car isn't going to have, well, quite a lot of things under its belt by the time we get to the end of this trip. It's going to have gone to many places, but I just want to be sensible across the whole thing. I don't want to drive 10,000 miles in 2 months and wear it all out, wear out the steering wheel, wear out some of the enjoyment as well. So I'll be using other cars for certain bits, probably taking taxis sometimes as well just to get around, but I want to get it to as many events as possible. That's the main aim, so that you guys can see this car at lots and lots of different places. So there's a big trip ahead of me. I'm going to try and arrange meetups in some of the cities. Maybe you just spontaneously spot me in some of the cities, but we're kind of going to have to see basically how it goes, because I'm trying to plan this all, well, fairly single-handedly, and it's all really rather complicated. So things to think about before you send a car. One thing is paperwork. You have to obviously have all your original documents, your registration certificate, your proof of ownership, that kind of thing. Obviously that's all absolutely critical. And to take a car to the USA, one thing that's really quite convenient actually is that you can get away for 12 months. If you're taking a car for a tourist visit with kind of an exemption rather than having to take out a customs carnet. So to fly a car to Dubai or even to Canada or anywhere else, you would have to get a carnet, which effectively is like a bond that you're going to export the car so that you don't have to pay the taxes on it. So in this case, obviously, I don't want to pay taxes on a car that's not even staying there. So I'm very lucky that I've been able to apply for that, managed to get the paperwork through, so I've got all of that. Then of course I've got to insure the car when it's in the US. That's all lined up as well. I've got to make sure that I have all the documents on me all the time to make sure that if I ever get stopped, especially given because I've got a UK number plate on the car and that might confuse some of the police officers, I'm certainly expecting that to happen at least once, that I'll have to explain what the car is and why it's not on a familiar number plate or what state it's from, or rather not from in this case. Of course, being left-hand drive, that does give me a small benefit in the US. Being left-hand drive will mean at least that it's the right way round. So a lot of people have commented over the time I've owned this car, do I mind that it's left-hand drive rather than right-hand drive? And given I've done a lot of driving around Europe, Netherlands, Italy, Sardinia, Monaco, and now I'm going to do a lot of driving around the US, I think it's pretty likely that I'm going to do a lot more miles in it on left-hand drive countries than in right-hand drive countries. So what else have we had to think about? Trickle charger. The trickle charger for the car, the UK one, is 220 to 240 volts. The US is 110 volts. Mine isn't going to work, so I've got another trickle charger lined up for when I get there, when I do park the car up, just to make sure that the battery doesn't go completely dead. I'm not going to take other things like car covers per se with me. I think that would just be a little bit too much to try and arrange. But there might be some things that happen with the car while I'm over there. Anyway, let me see if I can get out of town a little bit, just to actually enjoy the car somewhere. I tell you what though, it's much more fun when you have a car like this out in the countryside rather than being cooped up in the city. I had an amazing time driving this car in Sardinia, and I am sure that I'm going to find some pretty cool roads on which to drive it when I'm over in the US, going to places like Pacific Coast Highway. I'll try and explore, try and discover things as I go. Maybe some places I've not been before. Of course, I'm driving in sport mode at the moment, which means we have a slightly firmer suspension. Coming up to a roundabout, that means we can have a little bit of acceleration as well. So, it's quite busy. I seem to have arrived at this roundabout at exactly the same time as the majority of the traffic, but let's just let a little gap open up ahead of me because, well, it's properly run in, right? We've been having some fun driving this car, and now we can do this. Woo! Okay! Oh, it lights up so well. This thing is epic fun. I love this car. Right, anyway, I've still got more than a quarter of a tank, but I've only got 20 miles to empty, so I need to make sure that I've actually got enough to get home. And then when I get to the other end, of course, I need to get to the first gas station, as they would say in America, fuel station as we would say here, because then when I get there, I need to make sure that I can actually fill it up. If I ran out of fuel on the way to the fuel station at the other end, that would be pretty embarrassing. So let's try and make sure that that doesn't actually happen. Do you know what? I actually should probably plan that. I should probably work out exactly where I'm going to go so that when I land, I'm not going to run the risk of that happening, because it would certainly be just a tiny bit awkward. Anyway, I'm watching out here because I can see that person coming very quickly, and I'm being super sensitive of this car right now. So, foot down. It's blisteringly fast. This thing is really, really quick. Yeah, anywho, maybe I'll just go find another country lane, see if I can take out some more fuel, and head back home towards the garage. Well then, that's been fun. I've succeeded though, achieved the objective. We now have less than a quarter of a tank left. Let me quickly show you this before I shut the engine back off. We have 6 miles to empty, but about an eighth of a tank to go, which is exactly what we need. So for the time being, engine off. I will be leaving the car parked up until tomorrow morning when I meet up with Turbo Transport to get it loaded to take it over to the Netherlands. That was that then. So, a double lock. I love that click you get, although I tell you what, yep, just spotted that. I'm gonna have to give that a quick clean, basically because I'd like the car to be clean when I get to the other side. So things are getting a bit more sparse here in the garage, cars heading off in different directions, but that was my last drive, in this stint at least, of the GT, being here in Europe. And yes, I know I've said this a lot of times, but that's how surreal it feels to me. The next time I properly drive that car is going to be out of JFK's Customs Cargo Terminal. This doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I will be back with you guys in a second tomorrow morning to get the car loaded up to send it off on its adventure. Good morning then. So, popped over with the G. It is time though to take the covers off the GT and to get it outside. Turbo Transport has arrived. We're gonna get this loaded up and crack on. So this means actually, because the cover is not gonna be coming with me, I'm gonna try and do my best possible job of folding it up tidily because it will be sitting here for a while without being on top of anything. The car is uncovered, and I'd say I've done a pretty good job of that. Now, of course, when I go away, I'm going to tidy all of this up, pop some of the cars onto the tyre cushions, put all of the covers away. But for the time being, let's hop in here then and see something like about 6 miles to empty, which is never going to be a great one when you're driving in a car like this. Always something moderately terrifying. So one press, turn on the ignition, and yeah, we've got our 6 miles. So bring it into life. Let's go outside and get this loaded up. And she's all loaded up, ready to be taken over to the Netherlands then. So I will be catching up with this car to unload it from the trailer, to load it onto a pallet, to then, well, go through all of the paperwork. I don't know what's going to be happening. We will find out when we get there. So let's fast forward then to Amsterdam to get this ready to travel. And just like this, you join me in Amsterdam. Turbo Transport has brought the car over. It's going to be taken out of the trailer to immediately be loaded up onto a pallet. So it's being driven by Andrew from Cars, who is looking after the car. Then over here, just to show you quickly, this is what it's going to be loaded on. It's going to be loaded onto this pallet, strapped down, and yes, I'm actually here with my Heritage RS, which is going to be taken home afterwards. But this whole process is a very new, very exciting one for me. We're with Tony here as well, who is going to direct the car coming out. But this is about to go to America. You've heard me say that more than enough times in this video, that's for sure. But it is time. It's actually about to happen. It's this simple then, straight out of the truck, then it comes up onto this pallet, which is a large sheet. Basically, you book it by the pallet. The reason you do this is because then it gets strapped down rather than being driven onto the plane. This costs a little bit more than having the car actually driven directly. But basically, it goes on kind of like this. It will be held into place, and that is pretty much how it's going to work. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. We're sending this car thousands of miles away. First time doing this. And now, under a cover, we'll be seeing it again quite soon, which is totally surreal. All strapped down, all the way around. Brand new pallet for the purpose, 16-foot pallet it's held down to. The guys obviously had to check the fuel level, make sure it's down, as you guys have seen in the video. They had to make sure, check for any damages to it, check all the paperwork, basically get the entire thing ready, strapped down here, and yeah, that's going to be forklifted, taken to temporary storage before on the other side of the cargo terminal here is literally the apron where the plane is going to pull up, and this is going to be loaded, or the pallet is going to be loaded, I guess for some other pretty cool cars as well, to head over to JFK. It's boggling my mind. It's totally surreal. I'm anxious, nervous, excited. This big adventure is right around the corner now. This is about to be interesting. The car gets picked up on the pallet by a forklift and then taken to a dolly, which of course is going to be pulled out to where it will eventually go into the plane. But if I just come quickly round the back here, safely out of the way, my Ford GT is currently flying. Not the kind of flying that I was intending to do today, but this is definitely a form of flying right now. Yup, levitation. This is the future. The car is moving. I mean, yeah, I should show you my face. It's been some interesting change of fortunes over the last week or two. And this is the trip I've been dreaming of doing for a long time now. And it's actually getting started in a proper way, with the car starting off its journey. Off it goes then, on its dolly. That's going to be taken into the cargo warehouse. It will be loaded when the plane is here to be taken over to America. But that is pretty much the process. There's a lot more behind the scenes that I've been kind of vaguely told a little bit about to get it all ready, to make sure this happens, to go as a very smooth process. But it has to be said, big shout out to Cars, because this has just happened like that. I've turned up, we've unloaded it, it's literally gone, it's going to go around the corner, and that's going to be the end of that, and I'm not going to see it again until I see it at the opposite end in the cargo warehouse there, ready to be unloaded and driven into Manhattan, into the center of New York City. That is all coming up very soon. I'm just waiting as it goes around the corner. Farewell, car. see it again in just a couple of days actually. That's it. The car is on the way. This is the start then of my massive US road trip. Huge shout out, as always, to Turbo Transport for bringing the car safely over. I've had the last drive in Europe. Of course, we've been spread over a couple of days with this video. It's been brought here to the Netherlands, and now it's on the way. A first, a very exciting time, and I cannot wait for what is going to be coming up. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys in New York, in Miami, in Los Angeles, in some of the places that I'm going to be stopping along the way. But this is a big one. This is the biggest trip that I have ever done. Bring it on. I'll see you again though very soon. Thanks for watching, thanks for your support, and I'll catch you then. Cheers.